How long does it take to learn how to barb? 6 weeks is enough.
No, you cannot learn how to. No, I won't take that from you.
No, Mr. You may just well ask him. If you know that this person has learned barbing for 6 weeks, will you take your head there?
Let's even ask him. How long did it take you?
It's about to
become this fine.
It's about
fine
skill.
broadcaster.
It's about skill in this.
How long did it take you to learn, bro?
As a serving corps member, I know that, or I realized
he's trying to push your question.
during NYSC at 53. Reinvention or repurposing. Of course, you're welcome to Governance Today, where we give you all the live happenings across the world of governance, across politics and policies in Nigeria and abroad. Well, this is an interesting episode, no doubt. It has always been a pleasure with Lateef Aremu. We have here in the studio, joining us, Victor Jejeniwa. Nice to have you here.
Yes, it's good to be here too.
Yeah, nice to have you, Mr. Aremu.
Well, it's good to be with Mr. Jeje today. I'm always skeptical of people who wear glasses. they are usually anti-government.
Well, they tend to see ahead.
Yes.
Further, you can see.
Okay.
They tend to see further than ever.
And speaking of ahead, we all remember that slogan during the, of course, Yakubu Gowon regime. 1967, 1970 was a very intriguing period in Nigeria's history. That was the Civil War period. Exactly. And the slogan, "Go on with one Nigeria," was deeply symbolized because just 3 years after, in 1973, exactly 53 years ago, the National Youth Service Corps was created. And at that, there has been recent happenings talking about the Federal Executive Council making the most significant change since then. And now, interestingly, we are having a lot of shifts because we have to see the legislature actually make changes because it has to be a change that affects the NYSC Act. And of course, there are a lot of talking points in the eyes of the media, no doubt, because if you're looking at the context is being that the Federal Executive Council has actually approved and recommended the first overhaul since 1973, talking about the creation of the National Youth Service Corps. And these are the main reforms that we're going to be talking about. The first one is civilian operational leadership, replacing military leadership. That means that the NYSC DG, in a way, as it has always been a military personnel, will now be a civilian personnel. This has been a big change amongst the several changes that we've seen. Now, it's a bigger question because we're seeing a lot of controversy in the eye of the media. But we can start from the NYSC being or having a major reform from just being a military leadership hierarchy now to be a civilian leadership in the sense. So what's your take on that, Mr. Lateef Aremu?
Thank you, Josh. I think it's important we understand the reason the NYSC was created in the first instance. There are two major reasons the NYSC was created. One, the NYSC was part of the 3 R's of the post-war 3 R's of the Gowon government: reconciliation, reconstruction, and rehabilitation, if I'm right. So part of the rehabilitation and part of the reconciliation is the establishment of the NYSC in 1973. And the idea was that when a young Nigerian finishes its education, let's say in Ibadan, such a person will be sent to the east to acculturate, to know other Nigerians. The second reason that has always been silent, and when they bring it up, people usually say, why is that? To provide a reserve military personnel for the Nigerian army. In case there is a war and we need to quickly recruit soldiers, the NYSC guys are our volunteer officers. They are the reserve. So when you look at the breakdown of the Nigerian military and they are telling you we have 1 million reserves, they are not talking about soldiers in the barracks. They are talking about the NYSC guys on the street. So they are the reserves. And when you look at these new reforms, it's quiet on that. What happens to that reserve? Are they going to create another voluntary services? Because in places where we copied this idea, it's a compulsory military service. You serve
like
in
South Korea.
like in South Korea, in Switzerland,
Israel,
and in places where we copy this thing.
Exactly.
It's a compulsory military service. A year in some places, 2 years in some places. But in Nigeria, because we are, as at the time, the NYSC was established, there was no immediate danger. The war has ended.
Yeah.
There was no imminent threat of war. So instead of putting soldiers together, we believe these young volunteers can serve. In fact, they call them volunteers at the beginning. Okay. The first 3 years, they were volunteers. So the first 3 years, NYSC certificate was not part of the requirements to get job. So when you see people who served between 1973 and 1976, they call themselves the last of the originals. Because it was meant for just university graduates and volunteers. So probably from the whole of Oyo State that time, you will just have 50 people who served.
Okay.
So those set of volunteers, because they were not needed for military activities, so they were sent to serve in civilian roles.
Yeah.
And you know, the military also do that.
Okay.
You see, in war zones at the frontiers, you see the medical services providing health services to the people. You see the engineering corps building roads, different parts of the military. So my point is that the second part of the NYSC that has been silent and nobody is talking about it. The only person who talked about it was the immediate past chief of the defense staff.
Okay.
No, is it the past one or the present one? What's the name of the huge man, the man from Ekiti State? I think it's the second one. Someone asked him that, do we have reserves?
Okay.
Then yes, we have almost 1 million reserves. The NYSC people. That is why when you go to camp, majority part of what you do in NYSC camp is military drilling. You do endurance trek, you do march pass. Yes. Even some people take it to extent to mock weapon handling. So how do we do that? Probably when it gets to the National Assembly, the National Assembly will look at other areas, because it's a key factor that we have to discuss. Well, if we are turning them out to civilians now, are we bringing in new reserves, or they still remain reserve? It doesn't mean that the fact that reserves doesn't mean that when there is war, they will have to carry weapons. They can provide other services, medical services, engineering services, psychological, every service that they can provide. Okay. But it is very important we look at that area.
So NYSC at 53 years, these reforms, have they come at a better time? Or perhaps this is not what we need because of the realities facing the Nigerian youth? Because we're looking at the possibility of having a shift in fulcrum, talking about a program that was actually meant for nation building in the first place. So maybe now significantly, we're looking at a cultural skills building project. Is this what we need at this point in time in Nigeria?
Yeah, well, I think when Mr. Latif was talking the other time, he mentioned a wide variety of things.
Okay.
And when you look at those things, you understand that every nation in developing, every nation needs this sort of, I don't want to call them organization, but we need this type of program, this type of scheme to evolve as a nation. And so the reforms, you are talking about 1973, that's 53 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt.
And if you're running a business for 53 years, definitely you cannot run on the basis or on the tenets of what you started with 53 years ago. You would have a need for reappraisal. And then, so it's not the first time that we are having a reform in the NYSC, but this seems to be like the first holistic approach or reform.
We've been having more of
we've had in 2012, for instance, we had, before it was, you had to go through some physical processes to register, to take down your data. Later, there was the biometric reform that you had to go through, you don't have to be there. Sometimes you just have to take thumbprint and capture data digitally. Then in 2012, there was the Sahid entrepreneurial skill acquisition. And so these were systemic reforms that were introduced bit by bit. But this one is taking a holistic approach, covers almost every aspect of what NYSC embodies. And it's a good thing. Reform is always a good thing.
Yeah.
But when you are making reforms, you are making reforms with the prospect of enhancing what you have before. You want to have a better overview of what you had before. And then when you're talking about scrapping off military for civilian and all that, and of course extending camp stay from 3 weeks to 6 weeks. Now, the major thing I have about this staying in camp from 3 weeks to 6 weeks is, of course, we don't expect that you are going for NYSC and then you are going to have a major life of comfort and luxury.
Of course.
But at least to a reasonable extent, you should be provided basic things that will make your stay memorable. We've had the experiences we've had in the previous. I don't want to say previous now because we are still in that.
Yeah.
It's the remunerations, the condition. Is it good enough to say you want to extend from 3 weeks to 6 weeks?
Okay.
Do you have anything for these people that will be staying there for 6 weeks? You have, I mean, you've got to look at all of these things, and then you have to enhance these things. You have to make it's got to be better life for these people. Just let me use that in quote.
There's also
better life.
There's also the skills initiative.
Yes, that's what they are hiding on that they want to get people
but
to.
let me ask, when you talk about the skills initiatives, what skills can you probably learn in 6 weeks? What the extension, the extra 3 weeks, because the entrepreneurial skills acquisition, whatever has been going on for some times now, and there have been some bit by bit reform, just like Mr. JJ mentioned. But this is like the first time the NYSC will be undergoing a major reform that will touch every aspect of the scheme, from the leadership down to the everything. And when you look through the reforms, one of the key reforms that these policies introducing is revitalization of the NYSC camps. But where I have issue with this, and don't let me say where I have issue, where there's going to be a major lacuna with this, is that the federal government is pushing the revitalization and rehabilitation of camps to state governments. And they are anchoring this on the reason that state government benefits majorly from this scheme, while the federal government pays. Because they go to your rural areas, they work in your hospitals, they work in your schools, they work in your ministry.
And then we are paying on your behalf.
So you should be able to do the basic of providing a befitting accommodation for them, even if it is for that 3 weeks. Because for me, I don't want to go back to Malam Sidi for another 3 weeks. And I served 16 years ago. I don't want to go back to Malam Sidi. The condition there, I know, and see, the Malam Sidi I'm mentioning, we were the second set to use that camp in Gombe State, which means the camp was relatively new when we were there. Now imagine what it's going to look like now.
If the camp was new and you don't want to go back, that's exactly what I'm saying. That it has to have improved facilities, improved amenities, improved conditions. Let me use that. Improved conditions. And it's also true what he said. What skills can you learn in 6 weeks? Are you doing introductory courses for these people?
But during side lectures, actually, we see skills being learned.
What skills?
They teach people Forex.
What is 6 weeks? 6 weeks. Even those that have been in Forex for 3, 4, 5 years, they are still looking for who have been in the business for long to train them. So it's not something.
How long does it take to learn how to barb? 6 weeks is enough.
No, you cannot learn how to. No, I won't take that from you.
No, Mr. You may just as well ask him. If you know that this person
Yeah.
has learned barbing for 6 weeks,
Will you take-
take your head there?
Let's even ask him. How long did it take you
It's about
to
skill.
become this fine
It's about
fine
skill.
broadcaster?
It's about skill in this.
How long did it take you to learn, bro?
To learn
As a serving corps member, I know that, or I realized
He's
that
trying to push your question.
during NYSC, during NYSC, you have the chance, you have the choice to pick which skill you want to.
We are saying that in 6 weeks.
Okay.
How can you say you and the thing is,
Yeah.
if you learn the introduction in 6 weeks,
Yeah.
say you choose fashion or you choose agric or you choose anything you choose in 6 weeks, I think that's got to be introductory classes. You have got to go outside there, pick more, and please, is there any provision for, okay, you have learnt this in 6 weeks. We want to help you at least for the next 1 year to improve on the skill which you have learnt here.
Okay.
And yes, because if you learn fashion designing for instance 6 weeks, you are just learning. So they've got to be something, a provision to help them develop in that skill at least for the next 6 months to 1 year.
Okay.
That's what we are saying.
I can get something here because the current period of camp for the orientation is 3 weeks currently. So are we trying to say that the 3 weeks even given for the past 53 years, those skills are not really?
No. You can learn
because
you can learn the foundation.
They get certificates for the skills.
They get certificates.
Okay.
The introductory certificate. There are certain skills you can learn in 3 weeks if you want to
like barbing.
No, you cannot let barbing in 3 weeks.
It's impossible.
Don't let us play down.
You just said
It's impossible.
You just said puff puff.
Yes, of course.
And you can do that.
Of course.
You only need to know the recipe. I mean,
of course. The recipe, the procedure
to our bakers. You can learn basic baking skills. You cannot even learn the advanced baking skills.
Okay, like
there are certain like akara, like how to make.
Are you trying to make?
Like if they are trying to follow the advice of the first lady.
I mean, also our president also
maybe they will introduce akara frying to the skill.
It's a skill.
And
how to cook. You can learn cooking.
Many people will go for akara. Truly.
That,
but if I learn akara, I will finish.
I know those are just because some of the people who worked on that reform are people who have vast experience and who know how to do this. And one of them is Dr. Joe Abba. And Dr. Joe Abba is someone who doesn't attach his name to something that is not
nonsense.
So he doesn't attach his name to nonsense. And I know they must have thought some of these things through. Everything we are discussing here must have been discussed and settled on that during that conversation. So what I think the National Assembly will do further, these are just the provisions. I mean, these are the provisions that has been highlighted. What I think we should add to it, if there is going to be a public hearing, there will be submission of opinions. What I think we should add to it is that after the 6 weeks in camp, when you learn the introductory aspects of these skills, will federal government follow up on it? Maybe place
in terms of funding.
In terms of funding, in terms of placement. Like, look at this now, like the 3MTT.
They can also place akara, people that learn it.
It doesn't see, when you say akara is just an example.
If
you want to learn catering as a whole, it's another business entirely.
It is.
You can learn how to mix cake and how to bake cake in 6 weeks. But you cannot learn how to decorate cake in 6 weeks. And look at those cakes they do these days. Someone can mold the three of us in cake format. So you cannot learn that in 6 weeks. So what I think, this is the starting point. So it's just like the police reform that we discussed on the last episode. When government rolls out policy cases like this, it's not something that will happen next week.
It is not.
The first stage
takes time.
The first step is to test public opinion on it.
Okay.
And they have done it before. That's another thing I want before I forget. So I'll go back to our discussion, is that Nigerians don't pay attention to what government is doing, especially if it does not concern the price of rice and price of petrol. We don't pay attention. This process started in 2024. And in October 2025, there was a survey posted everywhere. on the social media. Even there were some places that they printed it out and took it to them to get the opinion of young Nigerians. They took it to NYSC camp, they took it to universities, secondary schools, everywhere. I filled one online. What are those things you want to see?
Okay,
change.
Are we
Part
sure?
of the things I suggested.
Sure there was publicity on that?
There was. I don't know. Nigerians don't pay attention.
Okay.
Nigerians only react when they've concluded process.
Okay.
And this will serve as before we move on, as an advice to our listeners and our viewers that let's pay attention to whatever government is doing. It is not when they've concluded work on it and they are now bringing the reports
that we begin to
reactive. You know when Yoruba say laba bere si ni jampata. So it doesn't work that way. You have to follow the process. I fill the form. Look at the electoral reform. The process of electoral reform that culminated into the law that Buhari signed in 2019 or is it 2019 or 2020?
I think
or 2021 or 2022 that Buhari signed. It was part of the last thing he signed before he left. The process started in 2010.
Okay.
I remember Chief Justice Nas led committee came to Kano. I was in Kano in 2010. And I remember joining part of a team to attend that hearing. They collected opinions from everybody, including student bodies. Student union government from Bayero University in Kano, from the College of Education, from Polytechnic. And they went around all the states like that. But when they signed the law, what were our people saying? When did they start this one? A process that took over 10 years. The same thing with the police reform. The police reform issue started in 2013. The constitutional issue that Goodluck Jonathan inaugurated. Part of their recommendation is what formed the police reform. And a lot of process, a lot of public hearing happened. When they brought it out, Nigerians said, we did not know. See, anything that is not price of rice and price of fuel, we don't pay attention. So going forward, we need to be paying attention. If we had been paying attention, and we feel that survey, all of these things that people are now coming out to say, we would have seen it and said, look, before you bring it out, remove this. And there were public hearings, about 3 public hearings. People did not attend.
Okay, so Mr. Lateef mentioned paying attention. We can also pay attention to the statement by the Minister of Youth Development, Ayodele Olawande, talking about Adire fabric to replace khaki as new NYSC uniform. And these are some trending tweets from Nigerians across X. Voice of Igbos stated, and I quote, "Dear Minister, we will not allow you to Yorubanize Nigeria. Every tribe should be free to wear their traditional attire if NYSC requires that. Tribal superiority at the federal level will not stand. You are not the first to be the minister of NYSC." And taking another tweet from Tichi mentions that now, wow, thank God, person don't do NYSC. Which one be Adire again? This country.
He has come out to refute that.
Okay.
He said he did not say Adire.
Okay, what did he say?
He said he was simply giving examples. Like we have to, since we are moving away from the military tradition to civilian, we need to look for a kind of uniform that will reflect our collective
how can
culture.
We look for a uniform?
I'm not speaking of, and he said he gave example of maybe like Adire, like Ankara.
I think it begs that question truly, because like you said, we are heterogeneous. How do we, with our wear a collective, especially
maybe we are going to wear coat of many colors.
We are not. Nigeria is not a nation.
Okay.
We're not.
Nigeria is full of many nations.
We're a country of many nations.
So how do we get to harness all of these nations together to start wearing uniform?
The Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I think I still have to go back to what Mr. Lateef said earlier when he said that how we are I don't know, we are moving from a military to civilian in the context, and it's like we are eroding the old scope of what the NYSC stands for.
Nation building,
the reserves, the military reserves, all of these things, they are fulcrum in part of nation building. And now that we are looking at, of course, he came out to refute, but to have even mentioned something like that in the first place, you would know. You see, so sometimes I look at some of these ministers and I think, are they lazy in preparing speeches or preparing what they have as, I don't want to say agenda.
Okay.
You would have looked at what you wrote down, or did you just say it without writing down or looking into what you have put down perspectively? It was always going to engender reactions from especially other tribes.
Yes.
If you are coming to say Ajire. So whether you meant it or you didn't mean it, it's something that in the first place could have been checked and could have been avoided.
Okay.
And we are very sensitive.
No doubt.
Nigeria is full of and this period is a sensitive period in the history of Nigeria. A little thing, in the first place, people are already thinking that the president is trying to tribalize a majority of these positions and all that. And for you now to come and put out this sort of statement as even an example, we are still not over the remarks from first lady over Akara and all that, and then we are coming up with this again. So it seems like these things are premeditated, and they are premeditated to favor a tribe over another. How do we in subsequent times avoid all this?